Well, because
what were the qualifications of the previous ones?
Well, I think it's important to always remember that you put yourself. Say that again.
What were the management qualifications? I mean, Xavier Becerra.
I'm not talking about the previous. I'm looking forward.
No, but you're calling into question whether he could actually do this job, and I think it's
absolutely. I think America is now, and I think
it's important to discuss it because Xavier Becerra was just a lawyer and a politician with no management experience.
So does two wrongs make a right?
Sylvia Burwell was a Walmart lobbyist. Donna Shalala was a university person. Look,
RFK Jr. is a nut.
Okay, so that's different than what you just said. You just said he doesn't possess the requisite managerial experience, but then we get to the real issue here, which is you want to insult the man.
As the woke media comes crumbling down and Donald Trump keeps on appointing people that makes these woke media outlets lose their minds, we have yet another CNN host who, once again, as I like to say, goes full MAGA. We have Scott Jennings destroying the woke co-hosts who are melting down about RFK's appointment into Donald Trump's cabinet. Let's get into the clip here where Scott Jennings on CNN goes full MAGA and destroys and shocks the rest of his co-hosts here.
If we're being intellectually honest, there's really no good reason why Bobby Kennedy, RFK Jr., should be HHS secretary. An advisor, a confidant, somebody who talks to the president and advises, but there's no managerial experience in his resume. There's nothing that says he is qualified to do this job that is in charge of the health of all of us, all these different lanes. If he has views and has insights around food sources, around vaccines, then those should be given in advisory roles.
Why?
Because
what were the qualifications of the previous ones?
Well, I think it's important to always remember that you put yourself. Say that again.
What were the management qualifications? I mean, Xavier Becerra.
I'm not talking about the previous. I'm looking forward.
But you're calling into question whether he could actually do this job, and I think it's
absolutely. I think America is now, and I think
it's important to discuss it because Xavier Becerra was just a lawyer and a politician with no management experience.
So does two wrongs make a right?
Sylvia Burwell was a Walmart lobbyist. Donna Shalala was a university person. Look,
RFK Jr. is a nut.
Okay, so that's different than what you just said. You just said he doesn't possess the requisite managerial experience, but then we get to the real issue here, which is you want to insult the man, which is your right to do because you opposed him in the election. But you, doctor, are raising the issues that he has been raising, and I think they're appropriate questions to raise. I don't know whether he can be confirmed or not. The vaccine stuff at the table is obviously going to be the flashpoint of this hearing. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you one thing. This whole issue of the CDC and these public health agencies, look, public trust in the health regime in this country is as low as it's ever been.
But why,
It's because of COVID.
Right.
Because of school closures. Because of mask mandates.
Well, these people are going to blame it on people like RFK. And people like Scott Jennings, probably. Scott Jennings is on fire recently, and these people, they just can't handle it, man. I mean, he's 100% correct. The truth came out. He said the quiet part out loud there whenever he says RFK Jr. is a nut, because that's what he really wanted to say at first. But he's like, I don't know if he has the management criteria, credentials to be able to occupy this spot in Donald Trump's cabinet. And he's like, well, why haven't you complained about any of the past people who were in RFK's position? They didn't have any management qualifications or credentials or anything. And he's like, yeah, but RFK's a nut. It's like, okay, well, that's what you really meant. You just disagree with him hardcore. So you're going to make up something like he doesn't have the management criteria to hold this position. It's so obvious what these people are doing. And this guy's probably about to say, why do people have such a low confidence level in the health industry in America? It's because of people like RFK. No, idiot. RFK has published study after study, book after book, explaining the exact reasons why our food is poison, why the jab stuff isn't working how it's supposed to work. It's not like he's just saying, hey guys, I'm claiming that the food is poison and providing no evidence. No, he's going and looking at what other countries feed their people. They're feeding them the same stuff, the same Fruit Loops, or the same package at least, but the ingredients are way different. America is way more lenient and lax when it comes to what you can feed the public. And so the ingredients are way different, according to RFK, versus what they feed people in different countries. And I think that should be looked into at the very least. I don't see why it could hurt.
Because this country was but let me just finish. Because this country was drugged through a bunch of condescending and heavy-handed mandates that all turned out to be garbage, and that's why it's low. And the questions are valid.
And RFK is the answer to all of that.
Yeah, I don't know RFK helped promote the assault on the CDC that lowered the disinformation that led to more than a million deaths, Scott. More than a million deaths in the United States, higher than any other industrialized nation per capita. That's the result of failed policies and the demonization of the conspiracy theories.
Whose policies?
It's the CDC. I mean, I just don't get it, man. These people, it's over. Like, you can stop lying. You can stop being disingenuous now. It's over. You lost. At least for the next 4 years, it's over. And you can just sit back and accept it. You're not going to be able to lie your way, propaganda your way out of this. People are starting to wake up to it, man. And you can say RFK Jr. is a nut. You cannot like RFK Jr., even though he probably leans more towards your side on a lot of different topics, but simply because Trump endorses him, or he endorses Trump and Trump appointed him to be in his cabinet, you don't like him now. RFK Jr., I don't like his position on abortion. I don't like his position on gun control. But I do 100% love his position on making America healthy again. I do love it. And so does Donald Trump. Donald Trump says to RFK, and he said this in the public in speeches, leave the oil to me, leave everything else to me. RFK, when it comes to the health industry of America, when it comes to these pharmaceutical companies, run wild. Go do whatever you can to get the corruption out of the industry and make America healthy again. And I agree. Keep RFK away from everything else, every other policy. Let him run wild when it comes to the health of America and the pharmaceutical companies and the corruption and all of these things. Let him go free. There's also this other meltdown here from CNN about RFK's appointment. Let's check this out.
The daily parade of controversial in-your-face names for President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet. According to two people close to this situation, President-elect Trump is on the verge of announcing Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the vaccine denier, as his next Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. RFK Jr., a devout skeptic of childhood vaccines, endorsed Trump after suspending his own presidential campaign in August. He has been advising Trump's transition team. Here's just one of his...
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Many controversial comments. This one about COVID.
COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted that or not.
Not true and stunningly quackery. This news about RFK Jr. comes as aftershock.
That is, I mean, come on, man. That's not even crazy to say. That's normal for diseases. Like, there's diseases that only affect certain races of people. Think about sickle cell that only affects black people. Like that's not crazy to say at all. He didn't even say it. These people are acting like RFK said the government genetically modified CV-19 to make sure that it targets Caucasians only and we're under attack. He didn't say that. It's normal for certain diseases to be more deadly or more harmful to certain groups of people. A lot of times it's separated by race. It's not that crazy to say, but they're going to make him out to be this whack job because he said something like that. Like I said, man, I don't agree with a lot of things that RFK says and a lot of things that he stands for, but the health stuff, I mean, there's no doubt he's onto something. When you look at the rise in autism and things like that, it directly correlates. And who knows if it equals causation? I don't know. But I would like for RFK or someone to go in there and take a look and just see it directly correlates with childhood vaccinations. The rise in autism and ADD, ADHD, all this stuff, it directly correlates. So it's worth a look. I don't know if I'm not a scientist. I'm not an epidemiologist or any of these things, but it's worth a look.
Shocks have yet to die down over Trump's announcement that he wants now former Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida to be Attorney General. Let's get right with CNN anchor Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, what do we know about how Trump came to this decision about RFK Jr. that I feel is clearly going to upset the medical and scientific community, whether they're Trump supporters or Harris supporters?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, talk about tough confirmation battles, Jake. This is going to be an interesting one to watch, just even if it gets out of the committee, because that had been a major concern here. But I have been in Palm Beach ever since Trump won the election, Jake, basically day by day. And by being down there, none of this is a surprise that Trump is on the verge of announcing RFK Jr. as his pick for HHS secretary. Now, we are told that he has accepted this position. That's what Kristen Holmes is told. I was told Trump's on the verge of announcing it. Nothing is final until Trump himself has announced it. You can ask the people who've been picked for these jobs. They have even said that themselves, that they're waiting until he actually says it. But this one was pretty clear. The writing was on the wall that Trump really wanted to give RFK Jr. essentially whatever job he wanted in the federal government after he won the election. The two of them have grown quite close ever since RFK dropped out of the presidential race and endorsed Trump here. He's been hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. I saw him when I was in Palm Beach, a very tiny island. It was kind of teeming with all these people who were cabinet hopefuls. And now Donald Trump has offered him this job as the Health and Human Services Secretary, which is obviously a huge and encompassing job, Jake, and we saw just how important it is and how at the forefront it can be when the COVID-19 pandemic was happening. And what's happening behind the scenes here, Jake, is that RFK Jr. very clearly wanted a job in the federal government. And when I did an interview shortly before the election, maybe 10 days or so before, with one of the Trump transition co-chairs, Howard Lutnick, who is essentially in charge of all the personnel aspect of this, the other co-chair is in charge of the policy side, we asked him specifically about this because he had just sat down with RFK Jr. for about 2 hours. In that interview with me, he then repeated the very same vaccine conspiracies that we have heard RFK Jr. baselessly promote that are inaccurate. And in that interview, though, Jake, Howard Lutnick told me that RFK Jr. was not going to be getting the job at HHS. I followed up and confirmed because the question then before the election had been whether or not he could get confirmed in the Senate. It seemed very unlikely at the time. I think now, with what we've heard from other Senate Republicans on these other controversial picks, it's still a question of whether or not that can happen. I don't think anything is a given no at this moment. And this is something that Trump was...
Well, it's definitely not a given no, but I wouldn't say it's a given yes either. I think if anybody were to get denied by the Senate that Trump is trying to appoint, it would be RFK Jr. for obvious reasons, not just for him trying to go after the health problems in America, but also the other corruption that he would 110% try to uncover within the three-letter agencies and within the government in general. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this meltdown coming from CNN and all of this woke media as a result of RFK's appointment by Donald Trump into his cabinet. And also, what do you think about Scott Jennings absolutely destroying those CNN hosts? Scott Jennings is on fire recently. I'm loving watching him going on CNN. Who knows how much longer they're going to have him on there. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole CNN and woke media versus RFK Jr. in the comments.